Hey, what's up, everyone? Obviously, I just wanted to react to, as everybody is reacting to this, Russell Westbrook trade, because um, I think it's one of the biggest deals we've seen in the NBA in a long time, and probably one of the most controversial deal we've seen in a long time. Um, the last one I can remember, funnily enough, is when when OKC traded Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul in Houston. Um, that deal didn't make sense for Houston whatsoever. And a year later that fell apart. And I think this deal again, Westbrook to the Lakers, it's just I'm not feeling it at all. I mean, it's exciting. I can't wait to see what he does in La La Land, but it just doesn't seem to me like it's going to be the right fit. Um, let's start with the Wizards. I mean, I think that the Wizards GM is a fucking genius. I mean, to pull that deal off, he first got rid of John Wall to get Russell Westbrook, and then he flips Russell Westbrook for three players who, I don't really care about Montrezl Harrell, but KCP, I think he's a great perimeter defender. He can hit three. I like Kuzma because he still has some potential. That first round pick, and you clear that cap space. Now you can build around Bradley Beal, but for the Lakers, like I just don't get why you do this. There was just so many better options in my opinion. Um, why not? Why go after Westbrook? Why not go after Bradley Beal? Why not go after Cal Lowry? Why not go after heck even be super creative somehow and get Damian Lillard? I don't know, but um, heck I even like Schroeder better. I mean I know Schroeder wasn't great in the playoffs last year, but um, I think he's a better defender. I think he brings more energy. He's younger, and I think he's a better shooter. He's not a great shooter. Schroeder wasn't, but he's better than Russell Westbrook. I mean, like, Russell Westbrook. I've had a love and hate relationship with Westbrook. Like, ever since he started in this league. Like, I was a huge Kevin Durant fan. Uh, at the base, I'm a Seattle SuperSonics fan, so I can't say that I was a huge Thunders fan, but I love Kevin Durant and I love the potential of Westbrook, and it was just so frustrating watching this guy year after year because he's got so much talent, but he just seems like there's something about his game, the way he plays the game, it just doesn't. It's not conducive to team basketball and winning championships. Um, he's not a good 3 point shooter. He's not a good free throw shooter. He turns the ball over a ton, and he's not a great player off the ball. And so it's kind of like on an offense, like what's his role? Well, really, what he's best at, is um, playing in a pick and roll type or in a one on one type game where you got four shooters around him, where you got a spread out court and he's gonna go one on one. That's what he's good at. He's good at driving, getting in the hole, and feeding everybody else. The problem is in Los Angeles, that's not that he's the exact same player LeBron is, but he's a much worse version of LeBron. So that's why I don't get the point of this deal because all you're gonna do is take the ball out of LeBron's hand, which at times is gonna be good because LeBron is gonna need some rest. But for the most part, I'd rather have the ball in LeBron's hand. I want LeBron to be orchestrating everything. I just feel like Westbrook's not gonna add anything to this offense. And on top of that, you get Anthony Davis, who's not a great shooter. So I get like if you got LeBron and Anthony Davis, that makes sense because they can play in pick and roll. Both of them can shoot. Anthony Davis is not the best 3 point shooter, but he can shoot it. Westbrook just can't shoot. So it's just those three. That shows about as incompatible as you could have it. I think if we were playing '90s basketball, this would have been a great fit, right? And even you look at Miami with Bosh, Wade, and LeBron. On talent wise, they should have won four straight titles. But the reason they didn't win four straight titles is because the chemistry just wasn't there. There wasn't enough shooting, and they put tons of shooters around. Battier, Ray Allen, um, they had Mike Miller. They had I forgot the point guard's name, but Mario Chalmers. They had a bunch of shooters around them, and still there was a chemistry issue because Dwayne Wade and LeBron are very similar players, and Bosh is more of a post player who could shoot 15, 20 feet out, but he wasn't known to be a great shooter. That's not his main skill set. you look at Brooklyn right now. Brooklyn, now, I'm not a huge believer in that tree either because I think injury wise, they're in trouble. I just don't think they're going to stay healthy. But at least on paper, it's compatible. James Harden, Kyrie, Durant, all those guys can shoot, so they can all play off the ball. They can all play on the ball. It's just, for them, it's more of a mental problem. Like, we'll see if they can, they can take care of everything and of their bodies and mentally just be present. But in terms of, for the Lakers, just chemistry is not going to work. And I know they're saying, all the right things and they want to make it work. And, it makes sense because the Lakers needed to do something. And I think the idea is that if you put enough talent together, it might just be good enough to get you to the NBA Finals. And once you're in the NBA Finals, who knows? Maybe there'll be a lot of injuries in the East, like happened this year. You land on the Milwaukee Bucks or another team, and you got a shot. But and I kind of get it because the West is wide open. I don't see a team in the West, especially with Kawhi's going to be injured. I don't think he's coming back because he's always prudent with his body. I think the Suns are good, but Chris Paul, is getting up in years. I just think this year they had the perfect year. I have a hard time seeing them replicating that. But they have some young players. So maybe DeAndre Ayton, Cam Johnson, Michael Bridges, Cameron Payne. Maybe all those guys just kind of take it up one notch and get better. And Chris Paul doesn't take that much of a step back. So I could see Phoenix, but the Jazz, they're going to make it the playoffs. They're going to win a lot of regular season games. I just don't see them as a very good playoff team. I mean, their coach Quinn Snyder he just got punked. I mean, he got punked by Tyronn Lue. That was, dude. You cannot leave Terrence Mann open without making an adjustment. Like Terrence Mann went off for 30 something points. His average was 6 points a game. That cannot happen. So, whether it's you can't play with a big man like Rudy Gobert in today's NBA or their coaching or I just think the Jazz. I just don't see the Jazz. I like Golden State. I think Golden State's is going to be better this year. I think they got a lot more young talent. Klay Thompson. But again, injuries for them, big issues, big concern. Steph could get hurt. Draymond could get hurt. Klay Thompson could get hurt. They're a pretty injury-prone team. And they got to work out the chemistry too. So, Dallas, there's a lot of questions. I mean, Portland, I don't really feel it. Memphis is still too young. So there's so in the West, there's not a team that to me today stands out and I say, wow, that team's gonna win it. So that's why the Lakers made this deal is because if you put enough talent together, maybe you're gonna get through in the West. But my problem is I think they were better last year. I mean, there wasn't really a problem with the Lakers roster construction last year. I mean, sure they could have made a few tweaks. I think adding a better shooter. But mostly the problem was injuries. LeBron was on one leg. I hope he was on one leg because he wasn't very efficient. So either he got old really fast or he was injured. I think it's more like he was injured, even though I don't think his engine, his motor is still where it was. But he can be dominant. He's not going to be dominant for 40, 45 minutes anymore, but he can be dominant 30, 35 minutes a game. And when you got a guy as good as Anthony Davis, if Anthony Davis is healthy, you're good. Laker Nation's good. And then after that, all you need is to surround him with shooters, guys that can shoot and play defense, hard-nosed defense, and have one guy who can create off the dribble like Schroeder. I think he was a good player. He didn't play well in the playoffs, but I think they just put a little bit too much pressure once the Anthony Davis injury came about. But he would have figured it out. I'm convinced he would have figured it out. So I like the Lakers roster last year. I think it makes sense. I think Frank Vogel's a great defensive coach. They just had injuries. And, can Anthony Davis stay healthy? We'll see. But usually in the playoffs, he's healthy. Last year was the first time in the playoffs where he wasn't healthy. Usually he misses his 15, 20 games in the regular season. I think that's going to be the case too. But, I mean, the Russell Westbrook, like I said, there's no players that are more incompatible, in my view, in the NBA than LeBron and Russell Westbrook. And we'll see what they do with the rest of the roster. I'm sure, Rob Pelinka is going to add a lot of shooting and they're going to be creative. And let's hope so because this deal just doesn't make sense. And the roster construction just doesn't make sense. Literally, I would have, like I said, a Kyle Lowry, a Bradley Beal, a Damian Lillard, those type of guys, they would have just made a lot of sense. Because you need Chris Paul. I mean, somebody who can shoot, handle the ball, take some pressure off LeBron, um, who can play defense, who can shoot. Like any of those attributes. Russell Westbrook is pretty much the only thing he can do is handle the ball, but and create his own shot and he can distribute it. But he's just a. The problem with Westbrook is defensively he's not that good anymore because he's a little older, and offensively he's extremely inefficient. And I have mad respect for Westbrook. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. The triple double thing, all that there's great, but his game is so inefficient. And I mean, I've always had, like I said, a love hate relationship with Westbrook. Like, you root for the guy because he plays so hard. So I got mad respect for him and how hard he works, plays, and I mean he's just a freak of an athlete. But there's certain skill sets that he just doesn't have, and he's going to a team where the skill set he does have is exactly what they already have in LeBron, and they just need something else. Like if you had Buddy Hield, somehow you could have kept Schroeder and had Buddy Hield, something like that. It's like the Lakers would have been a lock to come out of the West. Now I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, they might try some kind of '90s basketball. They're gonna play some of the Heat. I just don't think it's gonna work. In today's NBA, you got to be able to shoot threes. The other pro to this, why this deal might work, and I'm trying to make an argument for this deal, is 3-point shooting is extremely important in the regular season, and it's important in the playoffs too, but it's much harder to get open in the playoffs against tough, sticky defenses. It's much harder to get open three-pointers in the playoffs. Usually you're not going to get as many open looks, three-point open looks. Not only that, but the game is so intense, and you're spending so much energy on defense. Usually in Game 3, Game 4 of really intense series when it's back and forth and it's close between two teams, the threes just stop falling because guys' legs just are gone. And that's what, I mean, you could name so many players who are good 3-point shooters, and when they get to the playoff, it's much tougher. I remember the Houston Rockets, they went like 0 for 27 in Game 7 versus the Golden State Warriors, and everybody's like, well, it's an aberration. No, it's because it wasn't an aberration. It's just because they were spending so much energy on defense, trying to stop Durant, trying to stop Clay, trying to stop Steph. You're running around, you're exhausted, and you have no more energy. I mean, your legs are just shot. So when you're putting up threes, it's just, everything's short. And so I think that could be one of the arguments for this deal is, you play 90s basketball, you play tough, physical, sticky defense. And then on offense, you get an offense with a lot of movement. I mean, triangle offense is dead in today's game, but, just something where there's a lot of movement. And, or you play a lot of pick and roll ball and you just alternate between LeBron and Westbrook or something like that. But, you're going to have to try to play, they're going to have to try to play a very physical, slow style of basketball, kind of like they did 2 years ago. And it's going to be a little bit like 90s basketball and a little bit like, they did between LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. But again, in today's league, I think it's going to be tough to pull off. And I think their age is going to go against them. If those three guys, if Westbrook was 26 and LeBron was 20, I mean, no problem, but the age is going to be a factor there. So again, I mean, just to recap, I don't think this was a good deal for the Lakers. The Wizards, huge steal. We'll see what the Lakers do the rest of the offseason. And I'm rooting for the Lakers and I'm rooting for Russell Westbrook because, like I said, I mean, the reason I dislike Westbrook is because the guy's so talented and he has so much heart. It's like you just want the guy to succeed, but it's like watching him's exasperating. And so, you hope the guy succeeds. You hope the Lakers, get on top. It'd be nice to see the Lakers win again. LeBron had another ring and all that. We'll see what Rob Pelinka can pull off for the remaining of the offseason. But I mean, to me, it just seems like this deal just makes it very, very difficult for the Lakers to figure it out chemistry wise. And I don't know how they're gonna add shooters that are of good quality, right? Like not just like the Ben McLemores, like Wesley Matthews. I mean, just not just like low tier type of guys, but they need to add like real talented shooters, like a Buddy Hield, like a Damian Lillard, like somebody like a Bradley, somebody like somebody um, who can create a little bit, who's a really good shooter, and I just don't. It just doesn't make sense. And even DeMar DeRozan, I think, would have made more sense. So, anyway, that's my take on this deal. We'll see what comes next. But I mean, at least for us fans, it's exciting, right? So we'll see what happens.